Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast of Exiled Entertainment. My name is Terrence Russell.
And Colton Swartz.
JT Van Dyke.
And we're here to talk about the topic of Dragon Ball.
And not just specifically Dragon Ball, but Akira Toriyama in general.
Yes.
What are they going to be doing in the future? How is this whole Battle of the Gods thing going to play out for them? Not only what are they going to be doing for the future, but what has this done to the previous content that not only them, but the non-canon GT as well?
Yes, we're here to discuss that topic and answer any questions anybody who has ever had. Now, on the subject of Akira Toriyama. Now, from what I have heard, due to the new DBZ movie Battle of Gods, apparently Akira Toriyama is in the works of making a new series. What series is it going to be called? I have no idea, but whatever it is, the thing about this new series and this new movie, it does make GT completely non-canon, as from what most people have told me and from what I've looked into.
It's going to render GT absolutely useless, especially after Battle of the Gods. Because you think going into GT, when they're climbing up to the lookout, Pilaf and his followers, you got to remember they were old. And in Battle of the Gods, they were extremely young. And GT doesn't happen but maybe a year, 2 years after Battle of the Gods, timeline-wise. And it's after the Buu fight. So it's at the end of Dragon Ball Z to the transition to GT. But essentially, Akira Toriyama made GT, he rendered it absolutely useless.
See, I hate it when stuff does that, because multiple different shows and movies and stuff recently have been doing canon stuff. Like the new Star Wars movie, which I've done a lot of research about, they've rendered everything in the expanded universe besides the movies uncanon. I just hate it when series do that.
Well, unfortunately, Colton, we're not talking about Star Wars right now, but we'll get that in the next podcast.
I was mentioning the canon deal.
Cut him a break, T-Russ. He's not... Colton, I was going to say, because Colton's not going to be doing a ton of podcasting in this one just because he doesn't know deep. He knows the basics of Dragon Ball, but not like deep like me and Terrence.
I'm not good at it.
He's attempting to understand it through his different,
my views on
things
everything
that,
else.
Things that he watched that can relate to it. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, because essentially after Battle of the Gods, we have normal state, Super Saiyan 1, 2, or Ascended, 3, and God. We don't have 4 or any other non-canon like AF forms like 5. And it seems like each Dragon Ball we get, other than original Dragon Ball, we've reached 2 Super Saiyans, 2 or 3 Super Saiyans roughly per. Not episode, but
series.
Like per series. Yeah. So Dragon Ball went along just fine. Dragon Ball Z came out. We hit 1, Ascended, and 3. And I don't know if you consider God, a full-on Super Saiyan form.
Well,
just because you can't switch freely to it.
Well, now it might be considered that, considering that in the movie Goku was able to, even though he fell out of it, he was able to freely transform back into God form without the need of his Saiyan comrades. Now,
that is true, because Bill's talked about how his body adapted to the power, and you got to think all Saiyans' bodies adapt to the power that they've gained throughout the fight. So, yeah, I guess it could technically be considered a new form, but it takes dire consequences for them to transform into back into God, at least.
Which means this is another form Vegeta will pursue.
Is Goku still in this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But
now, let's get on the subject about the new movie that is going to be coming out, the new Dragon Ball Z movie. Now, from what I've looked into, they're bringing back an old villain, probably a favorite among you Dragon Ball fans. They're bringing back Frieza.
Bringing back the Namek Saga.
Now, everybody knows everything about Frieza. They know that the battle took like hours long.
And like 20 episodes.
But think about this, though. This Frieza, despite many people's opinions, he's actually been one of the more iconic villains in this series, which kind of makes sense why they were bringing him back. Now, from what I've heard, they're planning on bringing him back stronger, like really strong. Now, JT, do you have anything like Like, what's your take on the movie bringing back Frieza? What's your take on it?
Man, put me on the spot here. Frieza, I wasn't a huge fan of the Namek saga, to be completely honest. It was a good saga. It had a great storyline, and of course, it's where we get the original Super Saiyan from. If you're not including like Bardock from non-canon, but it's a relatively good idea because he was the first full-blown villain that was actually saw as a massive threat. I mean, Vegeta was sought out as a
threat to Earth.
As a threat to Earth, but Frieza is like not global, but all the galaxy and the universe.
See, that's the thing, though. Throughout the entire Dragon Ball, anybody who's ever who has been a villain in the Dragon Ball series, they've started out like in the first Dragon Ball. It started out as like they started out as like threats to Earth, like with King Piccolo and all that. And then we started with the Saiyans who threatened Earth again. And then we come to Frieza.
He was the first one to disrupt everything on a universal scale.
Pretty much.
But he's definitely, like you said, he's a very, very, very iconic villain. And if, they kind of took a few ideas off of GT, and you have to think, like, all right, like, GT in the end of Z, but where I can't remember. I think it's GT where Goku goes back down, and it's Goku in GT when he goes back down to Underworld.
To HFIL.
And you got to think Cell and just everyone that he's really essentially defeated up till that time are down there, and it's almost like Otherworld where Goku goes up to the Grand Kai's planet, and they're all training, essentially growing stronger. So it would make sense that Frieza comes back even stronger than he was on Namek, because almost like on Grand Kai's planet, everybody down there is training with each other. So I mean, Frieza has guys that are like completely out of his league. He has I guess if you did kind of count in GT, you would have like Omega Shenron, you would have Cell, you would have Boo, you would have all these complete total almost I wouldn't say gods because they're not considered gods, but really, compared to Frieza, they're in a whole different league. So it's essentially almost like bringing Krillin to a training session with essentially Vegeta and Goku, way out of his league, but enough that they'd be able to take it easy on him, so he would be able to improve and become on a whole new level like they would be. So the whole idea of Frieza coming back, and not just coming back, but coming back stronger, is a very plausible idea that Akira Toriyama had.
Mm-hmm. And you also gotta think that, like you said, you brought up an excellent point. Like, he's been training down in the underworld. You gotta think though, out of all the years that he's been down in underworld training, you gotta think, could he quite possibly, if he were to come back in the original DBZ universe, could he possibly, be as strong or quite possibly stronger than Goku was when he was in Super Saiyan 3 mode? You gotta think, because that's years of training stored up. So Goku, I think in this movie, Goku might actually have an even bigger match than he did in the original series.
I don't know, because there's been some speculation as to being, is Goku going to be the god this time, or as it was quoted in the movie at the very end, Vegeta said, "Okay, but next time when we do this, I'm becoming the god." So it's speculated Vegeta is going to become the god this time. Goku still having the reserves of power that he has. Are they going to be able to make Super Saiyan God Vegito or
Gogeta?
Gogeta, yeah. You know what I'm saying. But if they are, what enemy is going to be powerful enough to do that? Now, Frieza may show back up, but he would be literally no match for Super Saiyan God Gogeta, because Akira Toriyama, in one of the interviews he had, he said he was asked, okay, power level wise, where does everyone stand? And he said, okay, Bills will clock in at about a 10. Goku and Super Saiyan God would average in about an 8. Now, his energy isn't depleting, but is gained up with this, the Saiyan blood, so he gets stronger throughout the fight. So he'd average about Bill's 10 at roughly the end of the fight. But Wiz, he said, would be about a 15 on the scale.
Oh, yeah, because,
so
like...
if they would Wiz be a possible opponent for Super Saiyan God Gogeta, or is Frieza really improved that significantly in the underworld? And not only is Frieza's power been raised, you got to think, what has Omega taught him? What has Cell taught him about all these techniques that he has from Goku, Vegeta, Krillin, Tien Shinhan, Yamcha? He has all of these skills, Cell does, that all of the, I guess you could call Z Warriors have. Is Frieza getting taught these while he's down there from Cell? Is he learning instant transmission? Because as we saw when Cell, quote-unquote, died the first time in the Cell saga, he was able to do instant transmission. Now, does Frieza now know how to do instant transmission? Does he know how to do the Kaioken? Does he know how to do Kamehameha? Does he know how to do Solar Flare now? It all breaks down to what he has learned in the underground as to, is he going to be a viable character to be fought against in God form? Because, I mean, other than attack-wise, I think his power level will be raised substantially to be equal, if not a little bit more than maybe a Super Saiyan 3 Goku. But other than that, I'm not 100% sure that he'd be able to stack up against a Super Saiyan God. Now, if he had stuff like the Kamehameha or Destructo Disc, I guess, which he already had, as you can see on Namek, essentially down, but stuff like Solar Flare and Tri-Beam and, all that kind of stuff, if he can get that down, he might stand a very, very fair chance against a Super Saiyan God, especially if he can figure out a way, because to me it almost seems like Frieza's race has the ability to transform that of a Saiyan. Now, is there another transformation that we didn't get to see in Namek that was a complete surprise to Frieza and King Cold that they didn't know was possible, but once they figured out that, okay, hey, instead of 4 transformations, we now have 5, is there any others we can get?
Well, I think yes, because like you said in the 5th transformation, I'm going to bring this up. In the movie Cooler's Revenge, Cooler was able to reach a 5th transformation because in the movie he was
Ultimate Cooler. Yeah,
he was already in his final form, and Goku in his normal form was able to match up against him. But you got to think, is Goku really as powerful as they say, that we think he is, or is he on a whole new plateau that we haven't even seen before? Like you said, could Frieza learn all the different techniques from Cell? Could he? Quite possibly. Now, as of going up against God Gogeta, quite possibly Frieza would get decimated if he went up against that.
Yeah, but just regular Super Saiyan God Goku or regular Super Saiyan God Vegeta, it's going to be a rough time because their energy does not deplete, and it pretty much just raises itself over time. But if he's able to get a transformation even over 5, that he can, just top that, it's essentially just like doing a Super Saiyan transformation. It's like your power essentially increases tenfold by the time of that transformation. So
pretty much. You gotta think.
It really begs the question of, if there is more than, as we've seen in Cooler's Revenge, technically 5 transformations for Frieza's race, then did he figure it out? And if he did, how many did he essentially, I quote unquote, unlock? Now, did he learn the skills from Cell? How much did he work to get even more powerful than Goku than he fought him on Namek? So it's like all of that kind of mixed together is what's kind of gonna tie Frieza as a viable character to be fought in the new movie. And I think we should just cut off into the new series now, and future, or really this is future, and then past we kind of went over. So I think we should head on to the series now, since we're coming up on 15 minutes here.
Okay then. Now on this new series, from what I think, there's always a new Super Saiyan transformation in the Dragon Ball Z series.
Yeah, at least one.
in the Namek saga, Goku managed to transform to the first Super Saiyan.
Technically second because of Bardock.
Yeah, true. Because of Bardock. Bardock was the first Bardock is the first Super Saiyan. And then in the Cell Android saga, Gohan was actually the first one to reach Super Saiyan 2. In fact, actually, he is the youngest Super Saiyan 2 out of the Saiyans.
If you think back, he actually did it in the hyperbolic time chamber, but only for a short
time, because
5-10 seconds.
Yeah, but we got a glimpse of it though.
Goku saw that he was able to surpass even himself in regular Super Saiyan. Goku got close the first time when he powered up. He got close,
he did.
but he didn't break it.
Now,
when Gohan was determined to keep training, he surpassed Goku in Super Saiyan in his power up, in his powered up form. Be able to surpass that, go over and break the barrier into a Super Saiyan Ascended, but by that point he was so worn out from the training, his body just couldn't handle it, and it was over just as quick as it came. So Goku knew he had it in him, and it was not just determination that brought it out of him, but he saw it in himself as well as earlier on in the series of Dragon Ball Z, that when he was angered or in grave danger, he could push his strengths to limits unfathomed by anybody at that time.
Oh yeah,
so
definitely.
He knew if they were in trouble at the Cell games, or if he got mad enough, that he would snap, and that was kind of his whole plan out of the gun. So he was the first and the youngest really to ever become an Ascended Saiyan.
Mm-hmm. Now, yes, that is true. Which means Gohan broke the plateau for new Super Saiyan powers, thus bringing us to the Buu Saga, in which Goku becomes SS3. Now, due to the recent Battle of Gods movie, GT has remained non-canon, which means Super Saiyan 4 is completely non-existent. But in this new series, will they bring it into factor? Will they bring God into factor? Or will there be a new Super Saiyan plateau like Super Saiyan 5, from which I have heard in order to reach that, you actually have to be fused with an eternal dragon. We do not know this for sure, but other than that, we very much look forward to Akira Toriyama's new series.
Well, that's going to be the end of this podcast. Podcad. What?
No, it's Podcad, man.
I'm JT.
I'm Colton Schwartz.
And I'm Terrence Russell, and this has been another podcast of Exiled Entertainment. Leave comments below and leave any questions below of what you want us to do next, and we will be sure to get to them. Anyway, this is all for now. We are signing off. Bye-bye.
Peace out, guys.